TruthSeekah and/or its affiliates are not responsible for any strange phenomena that may occur during or after listening to this podcast, which may include the following: heightened senses of awareness, psychic abilities, UFO sightings, alien contact, time loss, out-of-body experiences, ringing in the ears, ESP, lucid dreaming, increased synchronicities, astral projection, telepathy, stronger intuition, levitation, miraculous healings, and/or remote viewing. Please be advised to listen at your own discretion.
Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? To a place to walk on troubled seas, faith to stand when I don't believe. I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come?
You are now locked into the TruthSeekah podcast.
Gargoyles! Psychics! Everything's ungodly! Dark savage!
Streaming live at TruthSeekah.com.
She's not a Christian!
Give it up, y'all.
Your portal to the paranormal, esoteric, and all things spiritual.
She's tampering in dark-sided stuff!
And now, your host, TruthSeekah.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? I'm your host, TruthSeekah. This is the TruthSeekah podcast. I'm excited and delighted to be with you guys, as always. And shout out to everybody hanging out with us in the live stream, everybody watching this live on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, wherever you are. And shout out to all the people listening to this on the podcasting apps as well, man. You guys are awesome. I want to say a huge thank you to everybody supporting the work via Patreon. This is a listener-supported, listener-funded show. It doesn't exist without your help. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for co-creating with me and helping me bring this to the masses. So shout out to some of the latest patrons within the last week or so. I want to give a shout out, thank you to Andrew Joseph. Thank you for coming on, brother. And Terry H. Thank y'all for believing in the work and coming on to partner with me. If you'd like to support, head on over to patreon.com/TruthSeekah. There you get access to my entire discography of music and bunch of really cool stuff behind the scenes and guided meditations and all that cool stuff as well. Also, for those of you who kind of move beyond that to something more extensive that we have, it's kind of like the Patreon for myself as well as a bunch of other creators that we're bringing to the table now. It's our platform called The Mystic Circle. And so been working really hard on that the last couple months, creating content and the whole structure of that. And so it's more of a unique interface where it functions like a social media. So it's essentially a social media platform. It hosts private content, webinars, and all that good stuff. So make sure y'all go check that out, themysticcircle.net. You can get a 7-day free trial by signing up. Some of the stuff that we have coming up, we have our first webinar coming up, which is March the 26th. And so for those of you who are asking, yes, the date didn't move from Thursday to Friday. So it was the 25th. Now it's the 26th. Dee Wallace is going to be with us, and she had some scheduling issues. So we're doing it that Friday. Dee Wallace, the mom from E.T., Cujo, all those 80 horror movies. She's going to be on with us doing a webinar session. It's going to be really good. Make sure y'all check that out. Talking to a bunch of more lovely people right now about coming on for the following month, next month's webinar about sound healing and the power of music. So that's going to be good too. That's coming up. And also we are working on original films and documentaries for the platform as well. And so I just finished up our first documentary on demons. So we covered that subject extensively, the origins of demons, the Nephilim and the fallen angels and demonic possession, and how people get possessed by trying to contact demons or work with them or extract secret knowledge from them and all that kind of stuff. So we worked really hard on that documentary, myself and Joshua Fluman. and that is now up at themysticcircle.net. You can watch that entire film there if you're a member. So make sure y'all check that out. Bunch of more stuff coming up. We got retreats and concerts and a bunch of cool stuff. So make sure you just go over there, check out what we got going on. And there's a bunch of free content as well. All the meditations are there. And so, yeah, check it out. Without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump into today's discussion. Today, my guest is Philip Gustafson. Philip, welcome to the TruthSeekah podcast, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me with you.
Good stuff. And so excited to have this talk. And we've been trying to book this for a while, like late 2020, and now we're here. So it's good to have you.
Yeah, it is.
For those who aren't familiar with your work, what you do and bring to the table, just kind of give a quick overview of what it is you've been doing and what it is you do and bring to the table.
Yes, I've been a pastor in the Lutheran Church for a number of years, recently retired. But in the process of my working as a pastor, I work with becoming coaching, and also started learning about neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, which is a way we process the information we receive through our senses. And the combination of the two have resulted in some exciting adventures. And now in my spare time, in my realignment as a retired, I'm teaching a course for those who seek to be coaches for spiritual leaders, to look at some of the dynamics that go in there that are part of the NLP Center's program for life coaching.
Awesome. So how did you, there's so many places we can go and I want to go with you, but how did you get into, NLP for the first time? Because coming from a religious background, for some people that could be scary, those terms of, brainwashing yourself or hypnotizing yourself or something like that.
All of those things. Well, in my younger years in college, I was a psychology major in the early 70s, where behaviorism was the good way to go. Seminary acquainted me with Rogerian and other systems processes. All of them helped explain some behaviors now, but not how we got those behaviors and how we can move forward. I work with systems theories, some other psychotherapies, Jungian and other kinds of things, looking at racial archetypes, that we might have some racial consciousness which may affect us. And as part of a seminar series I was going to, I learned about neurolinguistic programming, how we receive 2 million bytes of information per second, and our conscious mind can process 130,000. That we dismiss a lot of things, we add a lot of things, and it intrigued me, so I chose to take a path of study of that, as well as applying that for coaching or working with people. And I discovered that though NLP was created in the early 1970s, that what is in NLP has been around for thousands of years, and most religions have aspects of it in their books of faith or in their belief patterns. So I've been able to find a way to accommodate faith with that. That any gift can be abused, but also any gift can be a blessing for others. And I see NLP as a helpful gift that we can use.
That's awesome. I've kind of been diving into it a little bit with using NLP with the scriptures. And so focusing on anxiety or fear and just reciting the scriptures that are associated with, there is no fear. Perfect love casts out all fear. Fear not, for I am with you. And so we're like training our brains that we have this relationship with God who loves us and who is, taking our fears from us. So is that a form of NLP as well?
That actually is several parts. One in NLP is state management, that we can choose the emotional state or spiritual state that we're in, and we can choose anger, we can choose fear, we can choose to go beyond them. Now, some things when we're threatened with survival, our fight, flight, freeze attributes come in. But when our conscious mind can be invoked, we can do things. We can find ways to anchor our feelings. So a particular passage of scripture. Many people find in times of grief, for instance, the 23rd Psalm, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Just hearing that word can be helpful. For someone going into stress, that perfect love casts out fear can be a very helpful trigger for one to find that state of peace, that peace that passes all understanding that we have. So that's certainly part of it. The use of in the Quran and in the Holy Scriptures, the use of metaphor. Jesus was a master of metaphor with parables. The Old Testament is filled with metaphors. Ezekiel with the valley of dry bones, as an example. In the Quran, the strength of is like light from the stars. Those kinds of images help us alter our mind and our thinking about things usually in a resourceful way.
Yeah, sometimes it seems to be a problem with the difference between, taking it literal, that we literally get our strength from the stars or something like that versus, the symbolic allegory, which is really where the power is in a lot of these stories.
Absolutely. The power of metaphor, and this is as part of NLP, the power of metaphor is that it overcomes conscious resistance and reaches your subconscious. That if you tell somebody, for instance, you're overworked and you need to back off on some stuff, the person is going to say, "No, I'm not overworked. You're saying I can't do the job." But if you talk about, well, I knew a farmer who had a mule, and we used to throw bales of hay on the mule. And one day he was getting lazy, so he didn't want to take 2 trips with the mule. So he tried to throw more bales of hay on, and all of a sudden the mule collapsed. Metaphor. And the person may interpret that as, okay, maybe I need to take a few bales of hay off my back to work. And then that's not a scriptural one, but many of the parables of Jesus deal with those kinds of issues that allow people to interpret them as it applies to their life situation.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so good. Like even with movies and stuff and books and C.S. Lewis, and there's so much that you're kind of like watching a different movie, because these people and these characters represent something different, in your life than it does even with the narrative that's playing out in front of you. And so that's the power of allegory and maybe just the conscious mind as well, and interpreting things to see where do I fit in with this as well. So now, would you say that prayers and like mantras are a form of NLP as well?
It certainly uses the skills of NLP. Again, anchoring is something, either a physical or verbal object that allows you to find a more resourceful state. Prayers can do that. It also prayers often can reshape how you're viewing things. And if you engage in prayer with God, sometimes your perspective changes as you engage into prayer. And that can be seen as an answer from God to you in prayer, but it also can be seen just how you're shaping things. That all of a sudden, I'm not asking for this. I'm not doing a Santa Claus wish list. I'm actually working, okay, what is it I really need rather than what I really want? Yeah. And what is really beneficial for others, not just for myself. Those kinds of things can come into you as you're engaging in prayer. And I think that's partly God touching our subconscious with you realize what you're asking, or what you're saying. Be careful what you ask for, you may get it. May be a response, but also helping to reshape you. And NLP in its best use helps put you in a more resourceful place, and with giving you more options, so you don't find yourself stuck with an either or option, but something in between.
Are you familiar with the term to prophesy or to speak or to like declare? Yeah. Almost like so, and we kind of tie into that in prayer, because there's this communion, engaging with God going on, but then we begin to like speak to our situation, speak to our body, speak healing. So versus like there's a switch that it changes where it's from, a petition of asking God, please do this, until like, okay, I'm speaking this into my future. I'm speaking healing over you, receive it, those kind of things as well. There's a difference there with that prayer as well, right?
Absolutely. That it takes. Oftentimes, one of the presuppositions in NLP is that we don't see reality. We have a map of reality that we see, and that map can be altered. And one of the things that can happen in prayers is all of a sudden you can see things you might not have seen before. And that could be a divine intervention coming in to give you a shape and prophecy, to be able to speak a path to my life that I didn't see before. And that's one of the aspects that spirituality NLP does is expand that map of reality to see things that we never saw before, and that can bring healing. It can bring hope. We can perceive things that we normally don't perceive with our senses, and I think that's part of the gift of healing. Is it brings us beyond what our eyes can see, our ears can hear, our fingers can touch, or we can smell, or we can taste. That there's more senses than that, and this NLP provides a language and a way that we can look at that at the process, not so much the content, but the process of how we come to that.
Awesome. With your background as being a Lutheran minister, what can you explain just the difference? Well, what would set that tradition apart from other Christian denominations? Like what is their kind of staple that makes them a little bit different?
Yes. The Lutheran tradition was birthed in Germany in the 1500s. A Roman Catholic priest by the name of Martin Luther had issues with some of the practices and beliefs of the Catholic Church at the time, and then stated 95 statements of contention with the Church on the community bulletin board, which was the cathedral door. The Church did not respond well to this and accused him of seeking to challenge their authority. He went back to feel that the authority of tradition is secondary to the authority of Scripture, and he argued that it is not our works that will save us, which was a big focus of the Church at the time, but it is God's grace that saves us, and that our life should be based on that response to grace, rather than trying to earn God's favor for us. And that was the basic turning point. And so the Lutheran Church was born in that time. He did not like, Martin Luther was an individual. He did not like the name Lutheran. He preferred evangelical Catholic, the Catholic, the universal church of the good news, using the original languages of that. Mm-hmm. And other groups then broke off the Roman Catholic Church during that time with some differences over predestination, over whether infants can receive the gift of faith through baptism, or whether you need to be a person of reason at an age of reasons. All kinds of other things came about. It became a thing but at our best in the world, the Lutheran Church seeks to focus on that aspect of God's grace and how we respond to God's grace. And so we are faith active in love. It's one of the ELCA, the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, which I'm a part of. One of our mantras that we use for working in the community is God's work, but our hands. We seek to be the body of Christ in the world, and at our worst, we would feel we're the only way of doing it. At our best, we partner with other faith traditions. We partner with others so that we can bring good to the world. So we can bring that grace of God to others, and whether they worship the same way we do or have exactly the same beliefs we have, that's not important. What's important is, can we do the work of God together? So can we assist people, in these winter storms, tornadoes that occurred down in the southeast?
Yeah, that's
yesterday.
I'm in Alabama, so yeah, we had a rough night.
Yeah, you had a rough night. Well, Lutherans are coordinating with other groups to help provide assistance to those affected by the tornadoes or storms. Mm-hmm. And they're there for the long term. They're not just there for the crisis, but they're there to help rebuild. And that's our faith impels us to be people. We're not looking at taking, okay, you have to be of this pigment of skin, you have to be of this sex or this sexual preference. We don't care about that. We care about the person as a whole.
Mm-hmm. That's good. So with you in ministry and your religious background, have you had, like, I don't want to call it like a spiritual awakening, but was there like a defining moment where things shifted for you to take more of a spiritual path, or embracing new thought or anything like that? Was there a shift for you at all, or do you still maintain more of a traditional path?
Uh, uh, Kind of a hybrid path. I was born and raised Lutheran, so I was there. I made choices in my college life as to looking at others. I explored other faith traditions to not to judge them, but just to experience them and try to see what was helpful with them. I came back to my Lutheran roots as a result of that. But my experience with others in the Pentecostal movement and in some Eastern religions, in Islam and Judaism, my experience with them has helped inform my faith. So I don't see myself as the only one, the only true one, but that we all have some things to build and give. About 25 years into my ministry, as I was having a crisis and burnout, I sought assistance, and that was a program that was introduced to NLP. Gave me great insight to, and it was a non-Lutheran tradition, but there were 80 of us in the program that were across 37 different denominations. All were Christian, but 37 different denominations, and I learned to respect some of those people. I'm still in almost daily contact with it. We've learned a lot from each other, and I think that's one of the gifts that God gives us is the gift of collaboration. That is that we don't have to be in competition with each other. We can be in collaboration with each other to build a better future together.
Yeah, that's good, and that's something I've been noticing with my years in ministry and just being in church, is that the competition that they have. And so I've been working with trying to network and promote other people and stuff like that, to really take a jab at that competition, or we have it all figured out, stay away from those people. Hey, he believes this. There's a lot of that in religious tradition and thought. So I've been actively trying to go against that myself. For you, facing burnout, right? It's something that everyone at some point faces. The Bible talks about don't grow weary in well doing. I think that's talking about burnout. What are some of the things or resources that you would give ministers who they're just not, their heart's not in it anymore? And I think that kind of plays a role in burnout as well. Just they're going through the motions. They know how to be a good minister. They know how to teach this stuff, but their hearts aren't in it.
The Lilly Foundation at the turn of the last century did a survey of why pastors were leaving, because 1,500 clergy were leaving in the United States and Canada a month, leaving ministry. About a third of them were leaving out of retirement or health issues, but about 2/3 were leaving out of burnout. And they went to identify the four key characteristics of burnout, and I was at 3 out of the 4, so I understand the four characteristics which can lead to burnout. And this can be not only for clergy, but this can be for people in life as they burn out. Marriages and things. One is that they don't have healthy boundaries. They're either for clergy, they're either so professional they have no relationships with anybody else, so they have no support, or they try to please everybody.
Yeah.
And those two extremes, and life in between. So not having the boundaries, and we've seen in denominations the issues of boundaries of sexuality and things like this that have been violated. That can lead to burnout. Another one is they might not have the technical skills they may have felt called by God to be a pastor, but have not done any training. So all of a sudden you take over, you begin a church, and you're managing a 6-figure a nonprofit organization without any skills at managing that, and so you burn out because you don't have you don't know how to do that. A third one, a key one, is having unprocessed wounds in your past that come back to bite you. If you've been someone who's been traumatized by abuse or something like this, if you've not processed that, it may trigger some things in you in inappropriate ways, and that can lead you to burning out. And the fourth one is spirituality, that they lose the connection with God. I use, based on somebody else's illustration, I use the 4 journey models. The upward journey is a spirituality. That all of a sudden, all I'm doing is praying to pray. I'm not praying for myself. I'm reading scripture to prepare a message or to teach. I'm not reading scripture to fill myself with spiritual energy. I'm just doing things and not being. And that upward, the inward is a wounding, and outward is the boundary issues, and forward. Each of those can be resolved, but and that's part of my program in teaching the spiritual leaders coach certification, is to look at those 4 issues and what are some things NLP and coaching can help someone do. Again, a lot of it is helping a person look at things differently, to reframe, take a look at the same situation but look at it from a different perspective. It can help a person. I was working with someone who had come close to some boundary violations and was going to leave ministry because they came close. They didn't step over the line, but they came very close to the line. It was going to almost cost them their marriage, almost cost them, and they. I was able to help them in coaching, to help them work with their spouse to seek forgiveness for the occurrence that almost happened, and have them both have that, and to find strength that you faced the beast, but you walked away from it. You resisted that temptation, and that's a powerful statement of faith, to be able to find that strength within you. So that I work with that. I work with people who have been wounded in the past. That those things can help. And I think that's not only with spiritual leaders do I work that with, but I've seen that in members in churches that I've served, helping people work through what could cause you to burn out. Yeah. And it comes usually in one of those 4 directions or a combination of them.
That's one of the ones I've seen, and just in ministry, with being in this thing for over 20 years now, and seeing ministers come and go and fall into sexual scandal, or leave the wife you've been with for 20 years for a young, beautiful disciple that comes into the congregation, and it's so many different scenarios, but it happens a lot, even to some of the strongest ministers that you wouldn't think that would fall into this type of temptation. So seeing that, and then seeing, which is something interesting as well, I've been seeing people blow up online. And so there'll be people who come out as like a guru, or just going live talking about spiritual wisdom and all this kind of stuff, and then they blow up. Their numbers get really big really fast, so they have this huge platform out of nowhere, and then the first inbox they get, and these are married men, and a young beautiful woman inboxes them, and they're gone. They leave. It's so strange, and I'm really big on, warning people that, hey, this is gonna come. And I feel like for a lot of times, this is one of the first pitfalls, or one of the first temptations that people fail at, especially if they're not ready, or if they get blindsided by it, I would say, because they don't even know that it's a thing. But as soon as that comes, and you've been with this person 20 years, and then this other person comes and looks up to you or whatever, I've seen people just so I get messages from people who are dealing with that. I'm saying, hey, don't go down that path. And so have you seen that a lot as well? Like,
I have seen that, and it's we're facing the prince of lies. It is one of the definitions for one of the names for Satan. And the lies that we believe about ourselves can deeply affect us. If we think we are above our responsibilities, if we think that we are above our commitments, that we can change them at a whim without thinking of the consequences, that can lead us into dark paths, into paths which can take us away from the gospel light of love, and that to realize that when we are in a marital relationship, that it is a blessing by God for us to be with that partner. And if all of a sudden we believe a lie that somebody's better than this,
Yeah.
that that's and that's when we start getting those lies we believe about ourselves, that makes it easier for us to fall prey to temptations. The prince of lies will seek to twist the truth to allow us to deny what God has intended for us.
Yeah. I notice we like to, and this is with anything though, any type of temptation or whatever, we try to make up excuses in scenarios why it's okay. And so the same would come with, infidelity or leaving your family and kids and wife behind to go pursue this new calling as a spiritual teacher or whatever, or rock star, doesn't matter. But what I found is that people will kind of cling to the excuse that, their wife isn't with them on the journey. They, because they've had this spiritual awakening, and then now you've attained enlightenment, and your wife doesn't know what you're talking about. So there would, it would seem that you were incompatible, or you were growing apart, and they try to find ways to like convince themselves that it's okay to leave because of those scenarios, that I've had this awakening and God has called me to this place that my wife isn't coming with me. What would you say to those people who that tries to come up as an excuse?
It does. What I seek to do, one of the things that those who use NLP seek to do is when we're developing a strategy, a way of doing things, that we try to future pace. What does this look like? Is this ecological? How would this affect us in those things? And when I've had the couple of times I've less coaching, more counseling, with a couple of times I've worked with spiritual leaders who are considering wandering away, and even a couple of times those who have, I try to help them see the options of what they're doing, and their map is that they're just doing what's good for them, and everything's going to be okay. But if they can look, if I can expand their map to see the ill consequences, that if you show, if your marriage is a transaction you can dispose of rather than a relationship you should live with, there may be a reason that this relationship should come to an end, and let's explore that. But if it's a matter of some purported convenience, then what does this show for you down the road? Will people trust you if you break a basic trust? Can you have people trust you later? It's one argument I use, not successfully, but I use.
People believe anything, so you're like, I get them to believe I'm a good guy.
Yeah, if they're inflexible about it, if they're set in this way, there's very little you can do. But you can lift up. One of the things that NLP is a presupposition is that every behavior has a positive intent. And so what I'll seek to do with somebody who's looking at falling prey to temptation is, okay, what are you trying to accomplish with this? It's good for you. And positive intent doesn't mean always a good thing. It may be seen as the most positive thing that can go on right now. The lesser of two evils, it may be, but what is your positive intent behind this? And if you can articulate that, what are some other ways we can achieve that positive intent? And how can you receive this positive intent and stay within your bounds of your marriage? How can you receive, have your positive intent to with your spiritual awakening to be a benefit to others, but at the same time honor commitments you've made in the past? And that's part of NLP, to look at what is that cause, help them articulate that, and then find ways to communicate that in a way that helps them put them in a better place.
That's good. Can you speak to this a little bit? Let me try to set this up.
Sure.
So there's a notion, and I would say celebrity, in a sense of celebrity, that and maybe when you get too big, when you get really big, a bigger platform, it becomes a little bit more, maybe you need to do a little bit of this, but making yourself available to everybody. not in a sense of being overbooked or overwhelmed, but there's this notion that you shouldn't let people get close to you, people in your congregation, because if they know you as a regular person, they begin to see you as another regular person versus this spiritual leader, guru, respectable individual, even, and then they start seeing you as one of them, shoulder to shoulder kind of thing. And that's happened in religion, since the beginning. And so I remember somebody posted on Facebook, they just said that they were talking about having all their church members over to their house, and another pastor like rebuked them and is like, "Hey, you don't want to let them people come, see how you live regular life, and they're going to start seeing you as a regular person, and they're going to lose respect for you." And I think some of that is true. There is this weird pedestal that we put celebrities on, that we think that they're a different, type of person. And so when we see them as one of us, if we put them on that pedestal, it kills the magic. There's this magic, like this person is a holy person, meditating, reading the scriptures, talking to God all day. Then you're like, hold on, he goes golfing and watches movies with his kids and is a regular person. I think that it should be the latter, that we should show people that we are regular people and we have both lives, a regular normal life and a very much so of a spiritual leader life. But what about that celebrity leader, celebrity guru thing, that we need to keep people away from us and not let them see our humanity, if you will?
Yeah, I think that the word hypocrisy comes out of from the Greek, from our Greek friends, meaning wearing a mask. And it's at times where we place an identity on a mask in front of us to hide the real us inside. And I think that can happen with celebrity. We can say, well, this is what people expect to see, so I need to give them what they expect rather than just be me. And I think that we see the long-term things of trying to always wear that mask takes a lot of energy, because the mask is not a place you may receive a lot of your strength. Your genuine self is where you would receive that strength. And I think that and when people see the old Wizard of Oz, when people look behind the curtain and they just see the person there, they lose it all. I try to encourage people, regardless of what you are doing, that we are human being first and human doing second.
Yeah.
That our worth is not necessarily based on what we can do, but who we are and whose we are. So I try to encourage a journey model with pastors who are seeking to try and find who they are in this, what their identity, what is the basis of their identity. Is their identity based on being affirmed by others? Is that extrovert, introvert? Yes, we get our energies from some of us get energies from being out with other people. Others get energy from being by themselves. But if you are either end of a polarity of acceptance by others versus a self-acceptance. I mean, if you're just totally into self-acceptance and not any acceptance by others, that's sociopath. That's a sociopath. They don't care what anybody else does. Anybody else just use a tool to get what they want.
Wow. Yeah.
And the other end is the people pleasing, that end of finding only strength from what other people think of me. That a healthy life is lived somewhere between those two polarities. And at times we project an image that we need to project to help people find strength with God, and that can be an official position of some social distancing. Other times we that person. I'm mindful. I had a young man in a church I was serving that I kept a nice distance with him to look at things, and he would only call me pastor or sir or whatever, and would always, but he had a death in the family. His grandparent, who was very close to, he was very close to. When I came to see him, and it shook him to the core that I went over and gave him a hug. A pastor doesn't do that. You're too holy to do that. But afterwards, he said that was the most blessed thing I could have ever had, was that hug, because it was not. It meant that you were feeling it too. And he said he could feel me crying as well. That he said you became a real human being for me. Wow. But it made a lot of sense for the other part. That's I mean the being. The human being versus human being. We often the world judges by what we do, and as opposed to who we are, and we can often lie and forget about ourselves as who we are, in trying to do something for others.
That's a very interesting concept, and just even thinking about the story of Christ, that God came off of his throne essentially, or sent his son to to come be a person and meet us where we were, kind of thing. And then this idea of celebrity, that God is unapproachable. I mean, I think that was the Catholic idea, or just the idea in general, that we had to do all of these things to be accepted by God, and most of us, only the priests were accepted, kind of thing. And he said, no, like, I'm coming down to to be with the people. And so, in the sense of a leader, someone who is putting themselves on a pedestal, or people put you on a pedestal, but then you come down like as a regular person. It does shock people, like the young man at the funeral. But then you don't know, like, if somebody's been reading or listening to hours of your content in the sense of a podcast. Like, I'm pushing 400 episodes, and there's people who listen to every podcast, and I've never spoken with them. And then I get them on the phone or a Zoom call or something, and then they're like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm talking to you. And for me, I'm like, chill out. I'm a regular guy just like you, but you have to put yourself in their shoes. They've been consuming all of this content and stuff, and so they've put you on maybe a spiritual pedestal. In that sense, this is a spiritual podcast, and the only kind of part of me that you see, for the most part, is the spiritual conversations that we have here, so they don't get to see the funny regular side or whatever. So that's been interesting. Even meeting people who listen to them, because I do music and stuff as well, so meeting them and they're just like almost like starstruck to meet you, is very strange, but I do like, I like to help people, and so I like to not that I like to, I just like to create beautiful scenarios for people, and for you to meet somebody that you look up to, I think that's cool too. But there has to be some kind of boundaries though, right? Especially the bigger that you get. There's no way, if you're pastor over thousands of people in these mega churches and stuff, that you can know those people. You can't know all those people.
It is, and we in spiritual formation, we work with the be do have, as opposed to the world's view is do have be. You do what you do what you need to, you do what you have to do to have what you need to have, so you can be the person you want to be. That's the world's vision. But in spirituality, we look at what we have, we can be. Then out of that being, we can do things so that we can have things. And having is not just physical possessions, but having a sense of a good life, having a sense of making a difference in other people's lives. We do those things out of being rather than being out of doing, and that's
good. Do it because you get to do it too.
That's
We're allowed to do it. It's a privilege to be able to do this. It's a privilege that get to create or to lead or to encourage and those things. Not because you have to do it or whatever. You get to do it. Again, just kind of going back to the burnout just a little bit, but
sure.
Being a minister and having this thing that, like, I need to create something new, whether it's writing a book or a course or content, and approaching studying or reading to prepare something versus to get something. For me, it's just it's something that switches in your mind. It's like, okay, I just need to get something for myself versus getting something to prepare. I find myself even though those, for me, it's like a dichotomy, it's one or the other. When I shift over to just get something for myself, it's like an overflow of spiritual information, insight, whatever that I get to share. But in our minds, it still works as, let me go prepare a message or let me create this content for these people to enjoy, versus like, okay, I went in and this was amazing to me, that I'm going in for myself. Now it's an overflow and I can share it with people. How do we balance the two, or just even taking care of our own spiritual life in the midst of, being a creator, being someone who is who has to carry other people or whatever, that looks like?
I think both in the in our Bible, it talks about one of the Ten Commandments: remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. That's not just a concept to take a day of the week, but it's a concept of an attitude you could take, of taking time for self-care. One of the great images to me in Scripture is in Genesis 1. God creates the whole universe in 6 days. On the sixth day, He creates human beings, and says, "You're in charge. And now your first day in charge, rest, because I'm resting from work. I want you to work from your rest." And that concept of Sabbath, of self-care, I think it is a hard one to grasp, because we especially if we have care for people, we can see ourselves doing 24/7, 365, and always on. And what happens? The battery. We're solar powered with the sunlight of God's Son. As Christians, we're solar powered that way. But if we don't take time to charge in the sun, if we don't take time for Sabbath, if we don't take time for self-care, we can find ourselves exhausted. And when we're exhausted, we tend to be less effective. We tend also make poor decisions that do not benefit anybody. So to be able to find joy in your preparation is wonderful. But I find I'm presently assisting a congregation whose pastor had died for a year as a transitional pastor, coming out of my retirement and realignment. But I'm finding that I'm finding great joy in doing some sermon work, and then taking a break, just letting it speak to myself. Okay, do I want to hear this? and then I can refocus that, be recharged and refocus that. And I think those the kind of self-care. Are you pastors? Spiritual leaders should take a time each week for themselves. Whether it's a 24-hour segment a day, or whether it's parts of days, you need that time to do something beside doing that. And that relaxation can be just doing something if you have family, doing something, just playing with the kids, or spending, or taking your wife out on a date. Doing something like that can be a good break for you, a Sabbath for you.
Unplugging.
Yeah, unplugging.
Because it's hard, because especially whether it's an entrepreneur or a minister, everything kind of bleeds over into every area of your life, and it's hard to turn it off. If you got a project that you're working on and it's dependent upon you, and so that downtime, or even vegging out, watching TV or having dinner with the family, like, that thing is there. So really being able to unplug is key, and being able to do it effectively, of just like, okay, I'm done. I created this, I worked hard on it, but I'm gonna focus on something else that doesn't matter. Something that's not ministry related, or I just want to focus on myself or my family, or something that is just where it doesn't take much brain power, if you will. So I get like that too, because everything just bleeds together. And for those entrepreneurs and spiritual leaders and stuff, where you would work a regular job and you work 40 hours a week, this kind of work you take home with you, and you may work 80 hours a week, but it's something that you love. It's fulfilling. It's a difference there, but it definitely is demanding, for sure. So being able to have that healthy balance you talk about, and being able to have downtime and unplug, learning how to do that. And I'm continually learning how to do it, and it's not easy for sure.
Yeah. Same here. It's easier for me to help somebody else do that than for me to practice it on myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's where NLP can help me if I choose to say what are some of the things I could be doing that would be relaxing for me. And if I don't do this today, it will sunrise tomorrow. Yes. The old adage, if in 5 days this is not going to make any difference, why are you spending more than 5 minutes of it now? That's those kinds of questions. If you can ask yourself that can give yourself some rationale to say, okay, what is something I can do that's more resourceful for me? I need a break before I become over associated or so invested in it that I don't see that I lose options.
That's good. Something else you talk about is the art of effective communication. What do you mean by that? And there's different ways to communicate, but maybe they're not all effective, and maybe they're all effective to some degree. But what do you mean by finding the art of effective communication?
Well, in our languages, and we communicate with our physiology. We have with our speech, with our writing, we communicate in various ways. And where they match each other, it can be effective communication. If I were to say that this is fascinating, that you might get the idea that I may not be speaking the truth there. But we in our language do breaches in our times. We use headline conversations, if you will. How are you doing? I'm doing fine. Okay. You don't look like you're doing fine. And we tend to, three things we tend to do in language violations, three categories of NLP we talk about. One is we generalize things. Well, if you believe this, then you must be this kind of person.
Yeah.
If you're a football fan, you must be into violence. If you're a hunter, you must be into those kind. We make generalizations. We also distort things. And we delete things, and we do that in our language. And NLP helps us analyze if we see that vague language coming. Then by asking more specific questions to try and chunk down to get more clarity. Okay, you're saying you're feeling fine, but you look like you've been having a tough time. Well, yeah, I guess you would say I had a tough time. Okay, what went on? And as you break that down, you go past those items. We can't do that all the time. It's called a meta program. We can't do that all the time because we destroy conversation. If you're challenging always, so we let some things go. But when we're working with when in our own lives we look at this, and sometimes we communicate effectively by leaving some things intentionally vague. Milton Erickson was a master of this in his work, and in NLP we call this to Milton is a chunk up. So sometimes you have two people who disagree. Okay, they're disagreeing on this issue. Okay, can we find a point above it that they agree on? It may in a business. It's sales, they're not doing their job. Well, it's marketing, they're not doing their job. Okay, what we're seeking to do? Well, we're seeking to market our product and get it sold. Okay, what can we do to do that? That's not just sales and marketing. What other things? When we can chunk up to see a bigger picture, and in spirituality, we do that all the time. I've had a tough situation in life. I'm in danger of losing my job or whatever. But so I'm stuck there. But what other things can it do? Can you apply these skills you have at your job elsewhere? Can you is there somebody you can talk to at your job to see if that's a decision that's been made? Those kinds of options can help you. And that's effective communication. is learning whether we need to get more specific about things or whether we need to get broader in some things.
That's good. And so I think we're learning that too, what works best and how to be open and communicate. For now, you mentioned like being, training people and working with people of other faiths and belief systems and stuff like that. Do you think that it's some type of like requisite that we have to be more accepting and more loving? Because you have a lot of people who, again, coming from any religious background, like this is the only way. I mean, even there's some words from Christ that are quite frightening when it comes to that there is no other way. There's no way around this kind of thing. And so for those people who are trying to learn and trying to help people and understand, there's like I feel like there's psychology behind it as well. Do you have to find a place where you're more open, that you're more loving, that you're more universal, and seeing God's hand move in life? Is that something that you teach people? Is that something that people come to on their own, fruition, or how does that work? Because I'm sure it's quite hard to have like people who are stuck in their ways and our way is the only way, and kind of like training. And most of those people won't even kind of come to you to be trained because they've kind of already got it all figured out. But do you deal with that at all with trying to train leaders and pastors and stuff like that?
Yes, I do. I use a either or paradigm. Some people are in a bounded set or centered set. A bounded set is, here are the rules. If you don't follow the rules, we're going to vote you off the island. I mean, this is the only way. There's no other way. We don't look beyond this. We're going to put blinders on and not steer beyond this. And a centered set is, here's an overarching goal that we're going for. For instance, I mentioned the Lutheran Church in terms of its outreach for assistance for people. Some churches will go, well, some organizations will say, well, you have to meet this criterion for us to help you.
Yeah.
You have to be a United States citizen. You have to do this. You have to do that. Our tradition is, okay, if you have a need, let's meet the need. We'll worry about the other details later. And that can get us into some trouble at times. And yes, do the wrong people get served? Yes, but I'd rather serve 5 of the wrong people than not serve the one who needed it. That's where the bounded setters. When I have individuals who have that strong point of view, I try to help them shift their map to see more points of view, to see a bit of a broader picture. And often that's in, again, finding things. Community I was in, ministerium I was in, had a variety of Christian denominations as part of it that normally didn't speak to each other. But what we did was we found some common things that we could work on together. Yeah. And once we started seeing that this person isn't that arrogant SOB that we thought it was, that religion wasn't as stuffy as we thought it was. When we found that we could work together, when we found that point of commonality, then we were able to expand our views of things. And we had Pentecostals, Baptists, Southern Baptists, Lutherans of diverse kinds, Presbyterians, Methodists, all working together because we saw something better than what we could do individually. And again, that sense of collaboration, that when we can help somebody move beyond that stuck position, if they feel that way, why do they feel this that way? Is it because adherence to, I am the way, the truth, and the light. There's no other way to the Father but by me. Does that mean that I have to do this, or are there other things we can be doing? And taking other words of our Lord, that I have other sheep.
That's a big one, man. Like versus like just do what he said do, and most of it's it is love people. It's show people compassion and grace and helping the poor and being with those who are afflicted. Like there's so much more that if we just simply did what he did or did what he said do, then man, we'd be powerful and effective. Yeah.
And there's words, so greater things than these you will be able to do. And if we look at, I'll go with the Christians. If you look at the Christian church around the world, we set hospitals and places. We do work to bring. We try to eradicate malaria in Africa. Work with churches working together. We've sought to educate people as to how to, providing some places providing fish farms, so people learn how to not only provide food for themselves but also commerce for their village. We've assisted people doing those kinds of things. We've opened hospitals where nobody would before. We continue to do that. We render assistance long term. I mean, there's still church bases working with those who are victims of Hurricane Katrina years ago, that are still caring for people who are affected by that. And that's part of, I think that's one of the great signs of us, and other faith traditions do the same thing. I'm familiar with the Christian, but I know Islam,
Yeah.
the Red Crescent Society does marvelous work, and as Jewish charities, our Buddhist, Hindu friends, they do marvelous work as well in that way. That their faith informs them.
Good stuff. Philip, I enjoyed this conversation, man.
Yeah.
I'm a minister and spiritual leader as well, and so asking those questions, I'm taking notes myself as I'm rolling these ideas off of you. Thank you so much for what you do. I enjoyed the conversation. Go ahead and let people know your website and where they can find out more info. And we've been talking about things that you teach in your program that train ministers to kind of step out and do this stuff. So go ahead and plug your links and all that good stuff.
Okay. I'll plug my website is www.faithmindset.net. And the organization I work for with teaching the spiritual leaders course is the INLP Center. INLPcenter.org, and you can find on there the spiritual leaders coach certification course. So those are places. I just thank you very much. I've enjoyed this conversation tremendously.
All right, we'll have to do it again. Thank you so much, Philip. You have a good one. Many
Take
blessings.
Care. Blessings to you.
God bless. Philip Gustafson. That's it. Man, good stuff. Listen. Aspiring leaders, out there, like, you got to get your stuff together. There are pitfalls that you will face when you step out doing any of this stuff, stepping out full time, putting yourself out there in front of people, scrutiny, stepping away from people pleasing, working through conflict, and listen, you got to be well rounded at all of those areas. Like, you may just be good at one, that's not enough, because all of it's going to come up. And so someone like Philip, who's been in the ministry and seen the pitfalls, and myself as well, like, I'm teaching from experience, my own experience, and watching other people fall and see what happened to them, and then understanding that that's temptation and stuff that rises up, and you have to work through all that stuff. Some people are good at ministry, some people are good at helping people, but working through conflict, no. Scrutiny, people picking you apart and making fun of you on the internet, you suck at that. There's so much. So I think you really have to be well-rounded at it all, because all of it is going to come eventually. So even in my course, we're going to be talking about this tomorrow, Sunday. The next session that we do is we talk about pitfalls and putting yourself out there as a spiritual leader, doing one-on-one sessions with people, what you need to look out for. And it's universal stuff too, though. Like, it's for those who are stepping out, doing coaching and stepping out as ministers, but it's universal for sure. But especially when you put yourself out there, I've seen it time and time again, stuff happens. And even those who don't, like, fall victim of, the young seductive woman in your inbox, like, those who, a lot of people do. But the ones who don't, and they identify it and say, hey, I'm thinking about it, I need help. And I try my best to discourage, those weird thoughts that people get. And like Philip said, to stick to your convictions and remember that you said yes, man. Like, stick to your word. This is what you signed up to do. Don't abandon at the first sign of hardship or anything like that, or temptation. Don't fall at the first temptation, man. Come on, this is big. And I've seen marriages be restored. I've seen people hang in there and be able to raise their children in the same home because they've stuck with it, because they got over that hump. It was a hump, it was hard, I didn't know, I was ready for divorce, those kind of things. But he said, yeah, look, they stuck with it, boom, it's gone. Just like that temptation came in, it left, boom, it's gone. Now the next one, I passed the test, I'm still here. Those kind of things. And so you got to be ready. There are so many pitfalls and things that come up with putting yourself out there or saying yes to the call. We're in school, man. We're being tested and quizzed on this stuff that you claim that you believe. So when you're ready to step out as a whatever you are, teacher, guru, internet sensation, whatever, you're gonna be tested and quizzed on this stuff that you claim to be teaching people. So that's huge. But yeah, good talk. And there's a lot of people out there who are, I think a lot of you are leaders and don't even know it. You don't even consider yourself that. I think that, all of us, there's people watching you. There's people watching your family life and watching what you post on the internet and all kinds of things. And so you are influencing people and leading without even knowing it. So with that being said, just step into this conscious role of, I'm going to be a good influence with whatever platform I have, whoever's watching me. All of creation is really watching you. The birds, the bees, everything is watching you. The spirits, the angels, everything's watching you, rooting for you, want you to win, want you to pass these tests, man. So be conscious, be aware of it. It's good stuff. It is good stuff. I want to, again, plug the platform, man, the Mystic Circle. If you guys want to be a part of it, we got a lot of stuff going on. In talks with, we got our first webinar, which is going to be next Friday. Dee Wallace, the mom from E.T., amazing woman, she's going to be on. And so the following month, I'm talking to someone right now about doing a sound healing webinar where we're going to be teaching sound healing and actually doing a group healing session for the members and stuff as well. So you can sign up for a free 7-day trial membership. You can watch the documentary that we just put out. We've been working hard on that. The Gothic mystic Joshua Fluman drove in town from Orlando, drove over like 8 hours to be here. We've had a full day of filming, and then I had a full week of editing. So that's what I've been doing, working on that, editing it myself, and learning how to use programs and really take that stuff to the next level. And I am super happy with the way that it turned out, and it'll hold your attention all the way through. There's a snippet. You can watch one of the snippets that we released. It is on sleep paralysis. I just put a snippet out on YouTube, but you can watch the entire thing for free at themysticcircle.net. So make sure y'all go check it out. Bunch of stuff coming up, man. We have our retreat May the 1st. For any of you who want to meet up in person and do this breath work thing, you want to do the CE5 contact, everything that we do, man. May the 1st, we have a couple beds available for those of you who want to get in on that retreat. So make sure that you get your tickets at TruthSeekah.com. My book is available for those of you who don't know. I don't really plug it too much, but got to mention it every now and then. I do have a book out called Spirit Realm, and it's available on Amazon as well. So enjoyed this episode. Hope you guys did too. I hope it encourages you. Hope it encourages you to step out, encourages you to be faithful, to be present with the platform and the gifts that God has given you. So with that, I'm going to say peace and shalom, and love each and every one of you guys. Peace, peace. We'll do it again very soon. I think tonight we have a special guest lined up tonight, so hopefully that goes through, and we'll be doing a live stream tonight as well. So also, School of the Mystics will be tonight, 7:00 p.m. Central. For those of you who are patrons or are on the Mystic Circle, you'll get access to that. You'll get an email to join us for our live stream and conversation and all that good stuff. So with that, I'm going to say peace and shalom. Peace.
Your way so much higher than mine, so much higher than mine, so much deeper than mine, so much deeper than mine.
Well, that does it for this episode, folks. To hear more episodes of the TruthSeekah podcast, head over to TruthSeekah.com. And if you're wanting to support the show and get rewards, go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/TruthSeekah.